Hey Tabatha.
Hey Sharilyn.
What are we doing today?
Today we are discussing 10 different recommendations if you're new to horror.
All right, let's get into it. Cheers, besties.
Cheers.
What you drinking, Tabatha?
Water. What you drinking, Sharilyn?
Cold brew with the pecan cold foam from Starbucks.
Nice.
Uh-huh.
I like how you were like, now the turntables.
Well, how the turntables.
Oh, goodness. You may have noticed that we were supposed to have a demystifying horror episode today. We decided that we're going to end up combining a couple of them because the chapter we read for this week was really short and didn't have enough, we feel, to discuss. So stay tuned for the next episode of that.
Dun dun dun!
In the meantime, we wanted to get some recommendations. Sherilyn's been having her horror era. I have lived in the horror era for a while. So we have some good recommendations for beginners. Would you like to go first with one?
I would love to. So I'll start with the first horror book I've read. And naturally, it was a Stephen King novel, and it is The Shining. So this one, you may be familiar with the film or just some of the story from pop culture, but this follows a man and his wife and son as they take care of a remote hotel out in the Colorado Rockies during the winter. So the hotel closes for the winter season. This is set in the 70s. They get snowed in, they stay there all winter, and this, you get to see what that does to our characters. Jack, the dad, already has some demons he's dealing with, and being in this house, this hotel, really takes a toll on him. And so you start to see that devolution of the character and how that affects him and his family. And it's such a good read. It's very well written, naturally. It's one of Stephen King's most popular novels, but it's definitely very cozy in the winter. Not that we're there yet, but you know, we can
keep it in mind.
Keep it in mind, maybe as you get into the winter months. But no, this was a really good first Stephen King novel for me, and really first horror novel for me, and I definitely highly recommend it.
Since you did your first, let me do my first. So my first horror novel, and this was when I had the same idea that like everyone who doesn't like horror does, and that's everything is just slashery. It's all blood and guts and all that stuff.
And what's the point?
Yeah. So my first that I read was My Best Friend's Exorcism, and this was perfect for me in a couple ways. One, it's got Mean Girls in it. So if you like Mean Girls, if you like Heathers, if you like those like mean friend groups and you want like a little supernatural oomph to it, this is such a good one for that. I also really loved that the main horrific thing, like yes, there's a horrific thing. We literally have an exorcism in here. There is a possession, in fact, but there's also like the people are the actual like villains in a way, and so it's more than just like the horrific thing. It had that deeper feeling, and so that was such a great first.
Gonna go in a bit of an order here, and my next major horror novel that I read was The Staircase in the Woods by Chuck Wendig, and I loved this so much for the atmosphere and the world building of where the story takes place. I has cat now. Sorry, I didn't pick her up in any way that like made sense for anyone. So anyway, I read The Staircase in the Woods by Chuck Wendig, and I really loved this story for its world building and for the atmosphere and for the train in the background. This story follows a friend group who, let me hold this on camera. Would you hold that, please? Thanks.
Yes.
Yeah, I held the cat instead of the book. So the story follows a friend group. We have a couple timelines of when they were kids, and a traumatic event happens of one of their friends, well, all of them found a staircase in the woods, and one of the friends went up and vanished at the top and never to be seen again. So now as adults, they happen across another staircase in the woods, and in the classic book logic say, we're gonna go find him. And they go up the stairs and vanish into another dimension. And where they end up, everything that they experience and have to go through, and the ways they have to fall apart and fall back together to find their way back are quite the journey. I will tell you, every single time that I spiraled so hard reading this book. The time when I read it and what it was about, it hit hard. And so it was a very visceral experience for me. But I really, really loved the setting especially. So if you love a good atmospheric read, that's a really good one to check out.
Sweet. Speaking of spirals.
Oh, yes, let's go.
We have Uzumaki here. If you are a big graphic novel person, this would be a good entry point. If you are a graphic novel person who also is okay with a bit of gore, because this does have gore. So this is a beginner in the sense that it's an easy read, but it also just
has those
warning. Warning, it does also have that. And it's such a good story. This is a great entry point also to Junji Ito. And yeah, his art and storytelling are just so phenomenal. You will never look at spirals the same.
Oh! She hit me in the nose.
Ravi,
She smacked into my face.
why the Sharilyn abuse?
Brat.
So if you want a little bit, some weird stuff, if you want some small townness, if you want...
Small townness. I have fur on my face now. Brat.
You giving people furry noses?
Yeah.
But yes, this is an excellent start for horror. Yes, that's why we're here.
The next book that I finished quite recently, you may or may not be aware, is I Was a Teenage Slasher by Stephen Graham Jones. And I actually really loved this book. So going into my horror journey, I had that mindset of slashers, that's all there is. What's the point? Why are we here? So it was very funny for me to pick up this book and love it. It takes the slasher genre and turns it a bit on its head. It's a different perspective, a different look into slashers and everything that goes into a slasher story. So this is told from kind of written as a memoir by the character who was a teenage slasher and looking back at the experience a few years later. And one, I loved this because it was set in West Texas in 1989. No, I was not alive in 1989, nor was I a teenager in 1989. But having a whole bunch of small town Texas Easter eggs and experiences and things that just, they felt very cozy and nostalgic. And so I got a little like extra level of love there. But the story itself and the characters, the way they're done and the way they're portrayed is so fascinating, so interesting. And the tone of the story, and especially as we progress, is very bittersweet. And so it was an oddly like comforting and kind of like just like a bit of a hug for like you, definitely me hugging the character, not the other way around, but it's very much like, oh buddy, darn. So it's such a good book, and it doesn't feel again like what you horror, it's all the same. No, it's not, and this is a really good example of that.
Cool. I don't have a good segue from that one.
That's okay.
So we're gonna go into So Thirsty. I think this would be a really good one if you're into contemporary romance, because a lot of people were disappointed by this because it felt more contemporary romance.
Interesting.
So with that in mind, if you're a contemporary romance person and you want to dip your little toes, dip your little feet into horror, this would be a good one. So this is following some girls as they go onto a nice birthday weekend. They enjoy some time by themselves, and they happen to run into some vampires.
Casual.
So, you know.
It'd be like that sometimes.
Yeah. And I think the cover also kind of gives you that vibe of like, this is
kind
definitely
of like a fun, like a little unserious maybe.
Definitely. Very unserious, definitely contemporary, and definitely has romance elements. So very good segue for those.
So then, speaking of vampires, if you're more of a fantasy reader, a really great segue into horror would be Empire of the Vampire by Jay Kristoff. This one, how do I even talk about this book? I will say it's the first in a trilogy, where the rest of these I think have all been standalones. This is the beginning of a story. We are hearing the story of a man named Gabriel as he shares his story with another individual about his experience as a vampire hunter. Yeah. Does
I'd say that's fair enough.
we have some Witcher vibes kind of going on in this story, and we have a couple timelines that he's bouncing between as he shares his story and where he's been, and we're finding out how he ended up where he's at now. But definitely lots of vampires. So if you're into that as well.
As you should be.
I'm gonna be honest, I'm jumping on the vampire hype train after this book. Like, okay, I see you. Yes! I see you. So yes, this story in particular, it is very, I don't know if very edgy, but it's definitely like homeboy, like,
he's edgy and he owns it.
Yes, and no one is pulling punches. It's very raw. Even, and just like very raw. But it's not like for the faint of heart, but at the same time, if you're used to fantasy, diving into this would be like, it's a good step into horror.
It's edgy, it's angsty, no horse is safe, all that.
Yeah. She's not right. No one is safe.
Especially not the horses.
Including the horses.
J. Kristen.
He has something against horses.
He does. Yep.
He does, actually.
He legit does.
All of his books, he's like, fuck the horses. Okay.
When he released Empire of the Dawn, someone gave him a horse and they said, you're not allowed to name this horse because if you do, it will die. So
Empire of the Dawn or Damned?
Damned. Empire of the Damned. That's the one.
I was like, that was yeah. Speaking of which, the third installment of this trilogy comes out very soon, so great time to hop on this train.
Sweet. Train gets me nowhere. Hop.
Vampires. Spooky season.
You know, vampires are gothic and so are cathedrals. So revival. That's where we're
this whole thing is gothic.
Yeah, so
Also.
this isn't gothic, but it does have a church.
Churches. Revival.
This is one I also recently read, and I think that this is a really good entry point into Stephen King. It's nice and short. It's shorter than a lot of his books. It's about 400 pages, a little bit less. And typically when I recommend somebody a book, unless I know that they're like an avid reader, I typically recommend less than 400 pages if you don't know where you're going. And this is excellent. We've got the same situation that we often have, which is traumatic event in childhood / adulthood. It's not as much so as like Staircase in the Woods, Black Mouth, those kind of things. It's a little bit more just like they were children and some things happened. They weren't like, there was like slightly traumatic event, but like anyways, that's getting derailed. Anyway.
Trains.
This takes place in a small town in Maine where we've got a pastor who has a very interesting fascination with electricity. And then something happens. He gives a very terrible sermon one day. And then later we reconnect with the pastor and we see where his fascinations have led him. I think that's a good,
Sounds interesting.
It is very interesting.
Okay.
I cannot wait for you to read it. It's also got a really good main character. You've got one main character. A lot of times in that childhood / something event happens, whatever, you're following multiple characters. In this one, you're mostly just following one. So you've got one guy. You end up loving him, wanting what's best for him. You see how life has kind of hit him hard. And so you see that, why am I doing such a horrible job with this book?
Our brains have been through it this week. There's a reason we're filming this and not a discussion right now.
Yeah, and you can see why. Anyway, book is delightful.
Good book, good.
Read it, please. Better than I just made it sound, I promise.
So you mentioned that being a shorter of the Stephen King novels. Also a short non-Stephen King step into horror would be What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. Clearly itty bitty little novella over here. It's a retelling of The Fall of the House of Usher by Edgar Allan Poe. It's very atmospheric, very gothic, very lush, poetic even. So if you're, I bet this would remind me of, if I'd read it. I bet this would remind me of those Emily Tesh, the duology of
maybe.
Silver in the Wood and A Drowned Kingdom. Just in that prose and that if I had read this book before we got here, I'm sure it would remind me of something else. Anyway, someone had more ideas than someone else, so, you know, you get 10 books. That's what you're here for. What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. Sounds fantastic, doesn't it? I think it does sound pretty good, huh?
It is pretty good.
We have fallen off.
Yep. Good novella.
Good novella. Good.
If you like an atmospheric book with more luscious prose, if you like that gothic rich style, then you'll probably like this book.
Sounds right up my alley.
It is. And that's why you're recommending it to the people.
Is why I'm sharing it with the people.
And then last I have Bird Box. Okay, so this is another one that has a movie. We have a few in here that also have media. This has, is it a movie or a show?
I think it was a show, actually.
It might be a show.
With Sandra Bullock.
Yeah, it definitely had Sandra Bullock. I don't remember the runtime.
Yeah, I don't remember. I never actually saw it.
Okay, okay. Very good sensory details. So I think if you're into, if you want something that has like a lot of sensory details, not like too graphic or anything like that. This does have like graphic elements, but I think it's a little bit more chill on that side. And it's just got really good descriptions that you can almost feel what's happening. So I think it's really, really excellent in that sense. Excellent prose. There's a reason why this is almost like a modern horror classic at this point. It's phenomenal. Yeah, if you want atmospheric, if you want something that's going to give you chills, if you want that terror, that feeling of terror, you're going to get that with this one.
Something I forgot to mention. Audiobooks. These two. So this one I have fully been experiencing as an audiobook. The narrator is fantastic. His voice is fantastic. Great time in general. This one, the narrator, his voice is so perfect for this character and for the tone of the story. So if you're also an audiobook reader, or that kind of might help you get more into trying out a new genre of stories, I'll wait for Tabatha to get back.
I'm just gonna throw these in there too. These are also good audiobooks.
Yes. So all of these we can recommend that way too. Well, there you have it, folks. So those are some of our top recommendations for new horror readers. If you have any recommendations or any questions on would this be a good one for me, let us know in the comments below.
If you're not feeling chatty, leave us your favorite horror emoji.
Here we go.
All right. We'll see you guys in the next one.
Bye, besties.
Cheers.
Cheers.